Every sip of Coca-Cola brings you closer to the excitement of the FIFA World Cup 26. Because nothing compares to the joy. So grab a Coke and drink in the FIFA World Cup 26. No purchase necessary. 13 plus in 50 U.S. states and D.C. with a web-enabled device. Ends March 1st with 8 entry periods. Rules at cokeurl.com/soccer rules.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to DBR Bites, episode 139. We are back in your feeds. We told you we would be because we got a basketball game coming up this weekend on the road in Blacksburg against the Virginia Tech Hokies. I'm Donald Wine. I'm your host. We're going to preview this game coming up in this episode. We also have Jason Evans with me. Jason, it's been 5 seconds since we recorded the last episode. How are you feeling about everything?
I'm renewed and energized and ready to talk about Virginia Tech.
It's almost cathartic, man. We got that out of our system. Like, ah. All right. Now we can talk about a great game coming up this weekend against Virginia Tech. Again, that's going to be in Castle Coliseum, 12 p.m. on Saturday on ESPN. I should note, Jason, as we record this, we had snow last weekend that encompassed everywhere from basically New Mexico all the way up to Maine. There's more snow predicted this weekend, but unfortunately this snowstorm that they are predicting has a nice little center that is aimed right at North Carolina, South Carolina, and much of Virginia, including Blacksburg, that could bring upwards of another foot of snow. So I'm here to tell you, as of now, this game is going off at noon on ESPN, but check your local listings. And also, if you're in the path of the storm, please take, again, the necessary precautions to remain safe. Let's talk about this game as if it is happening, and it's going to be bright and sunny outside of 70 degrees. Virginia Tech, 16-6 this year, 5-4 in the ACC. And the interesting thing was that they started out the season pretty well. They were 11-2 entering ACC play and have some pretty decent wins. Top 100 wins against Providence, Colorado State, South Carolina, George Mason. And then in conference, they have top 100 wins against UVA, Cal, Notre Dame, and Syracuse. And their losses are all losses that are against pretty decent teams. St. Mary's, nothing to slouch at. VCU, nothing to slouch at. Wake Forest, Stanford. They lost to SMU on a Boopie Miller half-court buzzer beater. Ain't nothing to sneeze at there. I'm sure they want that game back, but it's nothing to sneeze at. And Louisville, those are all solid teams. They are coming off of a 71-65 win over Georgia Tech on Tuesday. And Jason, I think the most important thing before you talk about the wins is that they're 12-1 at Castle Coliseum this year. So once again, they're very, very strong at home.
Yeah, you were talking about their record. So they're 5-4 in the ACC. There's a world, not a crazy world, where Virginia Tech comes in this game 8-1 or at least 7-2 in the ACC. The game they lost to Wake, you mentioned, they led by 4 with 7 minutes left in that game. You mentioned the game they lost to SMU where Boopie Miller hit that half-court heave. They were up by 4 with like 20 seconds left in that game.
Yeah, they were up most of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. They were at one point in the final minute, they were 98% on Ken Pomeroy's computer, 98% to win that game, and they lost it. But the really painful one is the loss to Stanford. Donald, with about 2.5 minutes left, with less than 3 minutes left, they were leading by 12. According to Pomeroy, they were a 99.6% to win that game. I'm going to say the number again, 99.6% to win that game. It is the second most unlikely loss in the entire database that Ken Pomeroy has. More than 4,000 games this season. This was the second most unlikely loss of any game in the database. I can't, how do you blow a game where you're leading by 12 with like 2.5 minutes left? It's crazy. By the way, the only game that was a worse loss than this one, Boston University, BU, had a game where they were up by 19 points with under 5 minutes to go, and they lost the game. They'd been 99.8% to win the game, and they lost. But the team that can feel their pain is Virginia Tech from that loss to Stanford. So I'm telling you, even though this team is 5-4, Virginia Tech is like, what the hell? We have played well enough that we should be 7-2 or 8-1 at least in the ACC.
Remember last year, Jason, we had that conversation about why, when it showed that we were 99.9% to win with like 10 minutes left and up 40, why I didn't say 100. That's why. Because things like that happen.
Exactly.
That's why they don't do 100% until there's zeros on the clock. But as I mentioned, traditionally a tough place for us to play at is Castle Coliseum. And once again, Virginia Tech has been doing well at home. They are 12-1 at home this season. They're 56th in Ken Palm, 59th in Torbic, 60th in Evan Mia, and 55th in the net, which means this is a quad one game. So again, another opportunity to build our resume here against a tough team. Jason, let's get to some of the metrics. And I want to start with the offense because I think it's weird. The offense has been kind of up and down, and that's kind of contributed to some of their struggles.
Yeah, the thing to say about their offense is ranked 77th in the country by Ken Pomeroy, and they do a really good job of protecting the ball. They have the 15th best steal percentage on offense, meaning how hard it is to steal the ball from them. 15th best in the country, and they're like top 30 in the country on turnovers. They're just really good at making sure they get a shot on every possession, and that's a big part of being a good offense. It's good that they do that because they're just really an average team at shooting twos and shooting threes. They're not great, but they're not awful at either one of those things. They don't shoot a lot of threes. Around 40% of their shots, just a little under 40%, comes from three-point range. That's, again, right around the national average. They do a good job of attacking the basket, though, and getting to the free throw line. And I want to note this because I'm going to bring this up again later on, Donald, when we talk about the players. Mm-hmm. But getting to the free throw line is a key part of Virginia Tech's ability to score on you. In fact, in ACC play, this is an interesting stat. Among all conference teams, Virginia Tech leads the conference in free throw rate, in the amount of time they get to the free throw line. They're even better than Duke. Duke is second in the conference at free throw rate. Virginia Tech is number one. This could be a major issue in this game if Virginia Tech is able to get Duke in some foul trouble, and if they're able to get easy shots from the free throw line. It is worth noting that Virginia Tech is a fairly good, not great, but decent free throw shooting team. They hit around 72.5% from the free throw line. Again, that's not a huge number, but that's not a terrible number. So they get to the line and they hit those shots. Let's talk about them on defense for a second because they're better on defense than they are on offense. The 53rd defense in the country. They are very good at defending the three-point line, Donald. They only allow teams to hit around 29.7% from three-point range. That's well above the national average. And by above, I mean below. Their defense is better against from three-point line than it is for most teams. They don't foul a lot. I talked about how much they get to the free throw line. They don't put teams on the free throw line very much. Free throws only account for 17% of opponent points. That's like among the top 50 or so in the country in terms of how many points you're getting from the free throw line. Donald, when we're talking about the Duke Blue Devils, we're talking about a team that usually gets to the free throw line a lot. And Virginia Tech is very, very good at not allowing teams to do that. Now, it's worth noting they're not a really good defensive rebounding team. They allow around 33% of missed shots to become offensive rebounds. Duke has been, as you and I have talked about, Donald, we have talked about Duke being dominant on the offensive boards in recent games. It has been a key part of the formula that has Duke blowing teams out of the gym. That is an issue for Virginia Tech, and it's something that we need to watch in this upcoming game, although when we get to the players in a moment, I'm going to explain to you why they've had a change of personnel that could help them out at that rebounding stat.
Yeah, I think the rebounding, as we've talked about over the last couple of games for Duke, has been quite effective and really made it where we've turned, again, smaller leads into blowout victories. And it'll be an issue. Again, I feel like this game is always one where a lot of these stats that you mentioned, good or bad, kind of get thrown out of the window. And, Virginia Tech likes to go on one of these momentum shifts, those momentum runs. Castle Coliseum, as I mentioned, very tough place for us to play. We've had some struggles there, and it feels like the team will be up for it. The crowd will be up for it. So it'll be an interesting matchup with where a lot of times the rebounding kind of sucks momentum out of a gym. They're going to have it on their side, and it's going to maybe help them in that category. Let's get into some of the players, but before we do that, Jason, let's take a quick break. We'll talk about the players on the other side, things to watch, and ladies and gentlemen, we have an affiliate partnership that we want to let you know about, I'm sure you're going to like it, and we'll talk about it after this.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Support for the Fans First Sports Network comes from Hyper Natural Style. Men's Journal calls it the best men's polo shirt of 2024. Hyper Natural offers polos, tees, and button-ups that deliver unmatched comfort and style. Hyper Natural is a new generation of clean bio-performance clothing that reduces impact on the planet as well as your own health. Hyper Natural created the first ever shirts made from jade stone and crab shells. Supreme natural comfort and cooling performance without harmful chemicals and plastic polyester. Visit hypernaturalstyle.com and receive 20% off at checkout using promo code FFSN. That's hypernaturalstyle.com using FFSN. Thank you for your support.
We are back. We continue our preview of the game coming up this Saturday against the Virginia Tech Hokies on the road in Blacksburg. Jason, you led us before the break. You were talking about some of the players that could affect this game. So give me your best shot. Let's start with the freshman who has been doing very well for them so far this season.
Yeah. Dame Sarr, I want you to meet Neocolis Avdalas. This kid is tall, and he is a major reason why Virginia Tech is one of the taller teams in the country. He is, I guess he's technically a point forward. He's really their point guard. Neocolis Avdalas is 6'9". He comes from Greece. He is one of many, many foreigners who are really impacting college basketball this season. And I am dead certain that Duke is going to put Dame Sarr on Neocolis. I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing it. It's Neocolis, I believe. Anyway, Avdalas. Duke's going to put Sarr on Avdalas. They are both very big, very long guys. And Avdalas is just a really, really interesting player. He's not a crazy run jump kind of athlete, but he's very, very long and really, really skilled. Like I said, 6'9", but has guard skills, point guard skills. Look, he's only hitting right around just a little bit under 30% from three. But if you watch his stroke, it is a very, very smooth stroke. It looks to me like he's the kind of guy who can bury three-pointers if he gets on a run. He's also unafraid to take mid-range jumpers. Now, I know mid-range jumpers are, people talk about that's not an efficient shot. You shouldn't do that. But he takes them from so high because he's so tall and so long. He takes them so confidently. This is a guy who looks like he's the kind of player who can really bury you on those mid-range kind of shots. And because of his size, it makes it really, really hard to disrupt what he's doing.
I'm just going to go on record and say that according to KenPom, he shoots 29.1% from three, which means he's shooting 80% on Saturday. That's just how that normally works. But I also think, Jason, you mentioned one thing that I think is it feels funny because we've seen him play on certain occasions. You and I have, at least. He has some athleticism that's not really like quantifiable. He's had a couple of plays where he's tried to dunk the life out of somebody, and it's so surprising because the rest of the game is very much like, okay, I'm just going to go about my business and do my thing. And then there's just a certain point where he goes, nah, somebody's got to go, and it's you, and he's going to try and dunk on somebody. So again, that is when I think about Castle, I think about these momentum shifts and these momentum moments, inflection points, as John Shire would call it. An inflection point will be Abdallah's trying to dunk on somebody. I promise you he's going to try to do it, because that is just an instant energy jolt to everybody in the gym, and he's providing that for this team.
Now, an interesting thing about Abdallah is he was super hot early in the year. Like when people were all talking about Cam Boozer and Caleb Wilson and Mikael Brown and the other great freshmen in the ACC, they were talking about Neokolis Abdallah, because early in the season, I'm going to give you some of the numbers. They played Providence. You mentioned that was one of their good wins. He had 33 in that game. They played Western Carolina. He had 30. They played Stanford. He had 21. This is a guy who is lighting it up. He's gone really cold lately, Donald. It's very weird. He hasn't scored more than 10 points in any of their past 5 games. It's not for lack of shooting, though, by the way, because like in the past couple games, he's taken 23 shots. He's only hit 4 of them, though, 4 of 23 over their past couple games. He has gotten cold lately. We do not want him to get hot. But as Abdallah has gotten cold, the opposite of him, Ben Hammond, who is just 5'11", Abdallah is 6'9", Ben Hammond is 5'11". Ben Hammond has heated up. He started out the year very slow, but he has been on fire. Ben Hammond averaged 13 points per game on the season. He has more than 20 points per game over his past 3 games. Despite being only 5'11", Ben Hammond is absolutely unafraid to take the ball to the hole, and he has great body control. He makes acrobatic shots. He's a really interesting shot maker. He doesn't shoot a ton from the outside, but when he does, he makes it. He's hitting a nice 42% rate from out there. Ben Hammond and Neokolis Abdallah are the 2 guards to really watch in this game. But I want to mention one more guard, Donald. I'm sure you know who I'm about to talk about. The best three-point shooter on the Virginia Tech team. He is their 6th man. He averages almost 6 3-point field goal attempts per game. Hits better than 40% from out there. I am, of course, talking about former Blue Devil Jaden Schutt. He's now in his 2nd year at Virginia Tech. Has carved out a really nice role for himself as a designated shooter off the bench. He's averaging close to 9 points per game this year. He is capable of going off. Jaden Schutt is. He went for 15 against SMU the other day, including 4 of 6 from 3-point range. I'm sure there are guys in the Duke team that'll be like, "Hey, Jaden, how you doing, man? Don't go off against us."
I mean, look, it's always fun to see him do well. I'm hoping, again, in all seriousness, I hope he does well the rest of the season. I hope on Saturday he has 0 points. He's going to end with more than that. But yeah. I think, again, it's interesting because it's not often that we get to play against a guy who left the program. If you remember the days back in the 2015-16 era when Michael Benajay transferred to Syracuse, and then Syracuse joining the ACC, and then we ended up playing them 3 times, and every single time it was like, yeah, look out for that guy. We know what he can do. But he still was able to rise above that and kind of have a good performance. And I think with Jaden Schutt last year, he kind of struggled against us. He had that first 3, and everybody's like, oh, see, Jaden Schutt's doing his thing. And then we were able to kind of shut him down. But we don't want that to overemphasize that that there's other guys on this floor here that could really do damage, and to not put so much emphasis on the guy that we know and focus in on the other guys on the team as well.
Yeah, so I've done the guards. I want to get to the big men because Duke has been crushing teams on the inside lately. Duke has been dominant inside the paint. So we need to talk about the Virginia Tech bigs. And there's been a change for Virginia Tech in recent days, which is that Toby Lawal, who he missed basically from Thanksgiving to New Year's with a leg injury, and he's been sort of slowly working his way back in. They've just reinserted him back into the starting lineup for that game against Georgia Tech recently. Now, I talked earlier, Donald, about Virginia Tech's free throw rate, how often they get to the free throw line. Toby Lawal is a huge, huge part of that. He is 6'8", about 215, 220 pounds. Dude, it just attacks the rim when he gets the ball on the inside. Against Notre Dame, they had a recent game where he shot 18 free throws. That's more free throws than a lot of teams take in one game. He had a game against Syracuse where he shot 14 free throws. By the way, he grabbed 11 rebounds in each of those games. Toby Lawal is a problem on the inside, and He's drawing on average 8 fouls for every 40 minutes he plays. That's a crazy high number. That's far and away the most of anyone in the ACC. Like I said, they moved him back into the starting lineup this week against Georgia Tech. I think he's probably going to match up mostly with Pat Gongba, but he may get Cameron Boozer a little bit. I guarantee you part of their plan of attack for Virginia Tech is to use Toby Lawal to get our big men into starting trouble, into foul trouble, I should say. And it is also worth noting he is their primary rim protector. They don't have a lot of guys on this team who can block shots. Toby Lawal is blocking 1.7 shots per game. So he is their big rim protector. Now, he plays alongside a dude who's arguably even bigger than he is, also 6'8". So these guys aren't like super tall. They're strong. The guy I'm talking about is Amani Hansberry. He is 6'8", 240 pounds. It's a big old fella. Averages close to 15 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game. Now, the interesting thing about Hansberry is, despite that size, he's someone who almost like Cam Boozer a little bit. He likes to operate on the perimeter. He goes outside and shoots three-pointers. Takes about three to four three-pointers per game. He likes to get the ball on the perimeter and drive it inside. That said, he's very capable of playing down the post. Now, he doesn't have nearly the post moves of a Cameron Boozer, but if he gets it down there, he's going to yam on you. And I think Hansberry is probably the matchup that we mostly see against Cam Boozer. Every game, Donald, when we're previewing an opponent, we're like, who's going to guard Cam? Hansberry actually is a pretty good matchup, at least from a physical standpoint, with Cameron Boozer. And then it's worth noting Virginia Tech has some nice size on the bench. They don't use their bench a lot. One of the things about this Virginia Tech team is that they really only got like 7, maybe 8 guys that play. I mentioned Jaden Shooter's their primary backcourt sub. Their primary front court sub is a freshman named Christian Gerdak. He's 6'10", 260. He was the guy who was starting when Toby Lawal went out. They've also got another guy, a 7-foot freshman, Antonio Dorn. He probably doesn't play as much in a game like this. He's a little bit further out of the rotation, but those are the guys to look out for on the front line. But the bottom line to me is there's enough size, there's enough beef here that it's going to present much more of a challenge for Duke versus what we've seen the past couple of games where Duke's had a real major advantage on the inside.
Yeah, and I think, again, with so many big guys, it's interesting that the rebounding stats haven't been as
it's
great.
Not as good as you would think. I think part of that is Lawal has been out for a while, and they've been working him back in slowly. And these freshman bigs they have, even though they're taller, they're not as good rebounders.
Yeah, I mean, Hansberry averages 8.5 rebounds a game. Lawal averages close to 9 rebounds a game. So between those two, they want them on the glass, and they want them kind of being physical with Cam and Pat, because I think, early in the season, teams tried to be physical with both those guys, and it didn't quite work out, but they still kept forcing the issue. And I think, we saw against Texas Tech guys going right at Cam to try and get him to foul, to get him to the bench, but they were being really physical with him. I think this is a game where you'll see those guys, especially Lawal, try to get in there and get physical with our bigs to try and just, again, get them off their block, get them out of their spots, and make them have to work for everything. Let's move to some of the things to watch, because as much as we talked about the inside game, I think guard play is going to be important in this game. And I don't know why. Maybe call it a hunch, but I feel like those matchups can be pretty good, especially when you think about Avdalas kind of playing on the wing, not necessarily a guard, but playing a little bit further outside. Ben Hammond is going to be their key. I think he's kind of their X factor. If he goes and he goes off on points, that's going to help Virginia Tech really have confidence. I think is dependent on our guards to kind of shut that down. I also think when you talk about the paint, expending energy defending the paint is something that really you want Virginia Tech to have to do that. If Lawal, you mentioned how thin their bench is. If you're getting Lawal and Hansberry in foul trouble, or just making it where they're gassed because they're spending so much of their time trying to figure out how to stop Cam and how to stop Pat, that's going to help, because their rotations aren't going to be as crisp, and all of a sudden you end up with a mismatch. And so I'm looking to try and get them out of their element by making them have to expend more energy than they want to. The final thing, as I mentioned, Castle is difficult to play. Intensity. This is a game where that is an intangible that needs to be present from the opening jump. I know we've seen some games where we don't quite have it there. And with a noon game on a Saturday, it's easy for a team to kind of go, we're just easy into this game because it's noon. No, we need to get our minds right and enter that game knowing that Virginia Tech is going to bring everything but the kitchen sink, and maybe in the second half they'll throw the kitchen sink in there too. Intensity, intensity, intensity. That's the key to this game.
Last thing I wanted to mention about Virginia Tech, they've got a wing, Tyler Johnson. Now, he's not like a huge player for them, averages around 10 points per game, a decent three-point shooter. But we talked about their depth and them not having a ton of depth. Tyler Johnson's been injured for a little while, for several weeks. There's talk that he will be back for this game. The Virginia Tech was saying earlier this week that he was about ready to return to practice. They didn't think he'd play against Georgia Tech, and he did not play against Georgia Tech, but they were more optimistic about him playing against Duke. If they get Tyler Johnson back, then that adds yet another guy to that rotation. It makes them a little bit deeper. This is a team that has, as we said, not been using the bench all that much. They've been riding guys for 30-plus minutes per game. If you bring back Tyler Johnson, combined with Toby Lawal now being at full strength again, it really means that Virginia Tech's rotation goes from like 6-7 to like 8-9, and that makes a big difference for them, perhaps.
So again, this game, Saturday, noon, ESPN. Again, if there is any changes with regards to the weather, any changes with regards to time of this game, Duke, I know, was great on the socials last week. I want to thank them for that because it allowed everybody to kind of figure out when that game was going to be played. I'm sure they'll do the same thing this time around. So stay tuned to your socials. But again, count on it being on Saturday at noon. Before we get out of here, Jason, I think we have a nice little deal that we want to talk about with people. And when you think about basketball, you think about some of the different publications that have come out over the years. And one that kind of has been there for a very long time has been Slam Magazine. I'm sure a lot of ball knowers and ball lovers have subscribed to Slam Magazine, read the articles, collected the covers. Well, we now have an affiliate partnership, a new affiliate partnership we are forming with Slam Magazine. And the Slam has wanted to get into partnering with Duke in so many different ways. And this weekend, they were trying to do it last weekend, but the snow kind of affected it. This weekend, they're starting to kind of spruce that up. The first thing is, if you are a Slam Magazine follower, you have seen that in the last week, Isaiah Evans is on the cover of Slam U, and he's just the latest guy who was on the cover in a Duke uniform. The Boozer twins have been on there in recent months. They did a collection with the 2001 national championship team. So you have Carlos Boozer, Jay Williams, Shane Battier, Chris Duhon, all with their own covers. And now we have one with Isaiah Evans. Now, what they're doing this weekend is actually going to take place in Durham. Starting on Sunday, they're having a pop-up shop across the street from Bull McCabe's. It's 115 Moore Street. We will put this in online on social media at some point tomorrow. But when we look at this, you have a pop-up where they're going to have a bunch of merchandise, one-of-a-kind experience. They're talking about figuring out how to get Isaiah Evans there. Do not quote me on that, but they're still working on that pending availability. The pop-up shop is going to be located at 115 Moore Street. We will put this on social media at a later date. But 115 Moore Street, it's across the street from Bull McCabe's. They will be open on Sunday from 12 to 8, Monday from 12 to 8. And on Tuesday, which is the day of the Boston College game in Durham, they will be open from 4 to 11. They are also running shuttles to that game from the pop-up from 5 to 11. So you could go check out the pop-up, get your Duke material, and then take a ride to the game from downtown Durham. The other thing that they're doing is on Tuesday, again, the Boston College game, they are celebrating all of the Duke players who have repped Blue Devil uniforms on Slam U covers. So they're calling it Slam Night in Cameron Indoor Stadium. They will have a pop-up at Cameron Indoor Stadium where you can buy covers, you could buy not jerseys, you can buy shirts, hoodies, shorts that have Slam U's covers of Isaiah Evans and some other Duke players, again, the Boozer twins and maybe the 2001 team on them. So you could do that. But the other thing about this affiliate partnership is if you go to our Linktree, linktree.com/DBR Podcast, we will have a link that you can use to go straight to their store online. If you're not going to be in Durham this weekend, if you're not going to be at the game, you will be able to order this stuff and have it sent directly to you. So Jason, I think the start of what hopefully will be a great partnership, adding to everything else that we've done here at DBR. But a really, really cool thing that Slam is trying to get into this particular asset, and they're starting with us because they, as they say, we're the best brand in college basketball, and they want to partner with the best.
Yeah, I have to tell you, the thing that I like about it is the fact that Slam is, look, the kids, I'm not one of the kids, but the kids think Slam is pretty darn cool. And I love the fact that they are really embracing a relationship with Duke. And obviously I think there's some NIL dollars that are flowing towards Duke players as a result of this. That's always a good thing. The Duke brand is unmatched. Unmatched, on social media, unmatched in terms of scope and attention, unmatched in terms of eyeballs, all that other stuff. I am not surprised at all. If you are a basketball magazine and trying to tap into what's the pulse of the sport, Duke is where you would tap in. So it's really cool. Obviously, you and I are very, very pleased to be a part of how they're trying to reach out to Duke fans in the Duke community. That's a special treat for us. But I think this is just gonna be really cool. Everything I've ever seen from Slam is like, they get how to make it look really good. It's not gonna be cheesy. It's always, it's always right in there. It's something that I'm probably not allowed to wear.
I can wear it. I have my eye on one of those hoodies. I'm gonna wear it.
Dude, you're way cooler than I am. I will freely admit it.
But yeah, I think it's cool because, again, there's some people who collect the covers, and I know we've done it with like Sports Illustrated and other ones. They have framed covers of these Duke covers, these Slam U covers.
That
so
stuff
I think
is
that's
really cool.
You don't have to worry about getting the copy of it and then having to find a frame for it. You could just get it all in one on their website. So again, we will post that link. We'll post the information about the pop-up shop this weekend on social media. If you're following us on social media, Blue Sky on Twitter, on Instagram, we will post them there, and you can get the information about that. Again, we will talk a little bit later about the shuttle that they're having. We'll remind you about that. But on Tuesday, for the game in Cameron against Boston College, Slam Night at Cameron Indoor Stadium, and they have they're going to have a shuttle from Bull McCabe's essentially to the game. So check that out, Jason. I think that will do it. Oh,
actually, wait, I was going to say, if you go by the Slam shop, if you go by the pop-up shop, tell them that we sent you. We don't get anything for that. Like, I want to be clear.
Yeah.
But I would love for them to know that you heard about it from us. I think that'd be kind of fun.
And I'm a 2XL. I'll just leave it at that. Now with that, we will end it on this episode of DBR Bites. Again, we'll be back after the game on Saturday to recap everything and then get you ready for what is, Jason, is going to be a big week. Couple big games next week, one at home and one on the road. You know what I'm talking about, but we're focused on Saturday first and foremost. So until then, he's Jason, I'm Donald. It's now time for the Duke Band to play us out and take us home.